Welcome to We the People's News. News for the people, by the people. Today we're going to see what it feels like to not have control of your country, over your own laws, over your own financial laws, your labor laws, and being dictated to by someone in some other country that is not even elected, but appointed. And that's what it will feel like underneath the United Nations for America. You're going to see the same game plan being played out in Britain that is being played out here in America by the globalists. And I want you to do a little bit of homework for me. Please count the number of Nazi flags you see in this video, and I'll explain that as we go. God bless.
Well, let's talk about the possibilities, because you said the customer is always right. So let's talk about the customers and the Brexiteers, because they don't want this middle ground, or whatever you want to call Theresa May's negotiated deal with the EU. They don't want the no deal, hard Brexit. So what do they want?
Well, hang on a second. The Houses of Parliament do not want a WTO Brexit. And bear in mind that all trade that takes place between the US and the UK takes place on WTO. All our trade with China takes place on WTO. 90% of global trade takes place on WTO, but it's been so demonized by the big global corporates that dominate European politics, and sadly British politics too, that it looks to be an unattractive option. But let's talk about the real customers, shall we? Let's talk about the real clients, because they're the voters.
Mr. Farage hits it right on the head. The voters voted to get out of the European Union because their laws, as you'll find out, are not made by them, and they are dictated to, and they want out. And as you'll see, the movement has grown stronger, not weaker. The media will tell you different, though. They'll call him far right wing and they'll label him a Nazi, a white supremacist, blah, 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 just like they always do.
Not the members of Parliament, and the voters since that referendum, despite a tidal wave of negativity coming from all over the world, apart from Donald Trump, of course, who does support Brexit, I'm very pleased to say.
That is because Donald Trump is wise enough to see when you give up control of your country to anybody else, you're now a slave to what they dictate.
But despite all of that, we have not changed our minds. So my view is, whatever happens in Parliament, and even if the worst case scenario comes to pass and they force us to vote again in a second referendum on the same subject, which of itself would be an outrage, a democratic monstrosity, but even if they do, we will say leave again.
See, and why would it be a monstrosity of democracy? Because they've already voted to do this. And their government, their politicians, aren't doing it. It's exactly what freedom isn't. And exactly what we need to avoid in the United States of America. There's a blueprint right here to look at. It shows you what it's like. The European Union rules over them, the globalists. That's who's really behind the globalist movement, a lot of the European Union and other players. And that is something we don't want to be part of, because we won't be in control of our own freedoms anymore.
So it's great to see you. It's wonderful to have you on the program, of course. Such an honor, especially with the architect of Brexit. But I want to ask you, I understand what people want. I understand what you voted for. This deal right now is not what anybody voted for. So it seems to me that it's a binary option. It seems to me that there's either going to be another referendum, which they hope will change the vote.
Who is it that wants to vote change? The globalists. The European Union, not the Brits. The Brits voted, and the movement has grown stronger since, no matter all the negative media from all around the world. It's the same game plan being played here in America with our media. You just need to pay attention.
Or that there's going to be a hard Brexit. I know at least I think I know what you want, but what do you think will happen? Do you think it's going to be a hard Brexit, or do you think it's going to be a new referendum and a new vote?
Well, I'll tell you what, I will now be objective. I will not talk my book. I will not talk with my heart or what I want, because I've got no problem with a so-called hard Brexit, because that makes us an independent, self-governing, democratic nation that controls its own borders, makes its own trade deals. I could go on for hours, but there isn't time.
Imagine that, an independent nation. Now, isn't nationalism in America, love of your country, being painted as Nazism? People flying American flags, being attacked by people flying communist flags, and our media stands up for those flying the communist flags. And that's where the violence is coming from, and they paint it on the other side. It's the same trick as you'll see later in this video.
However, I think our parliamentarians lack the courage to believe that the UK is good enough to run its own affairs. I believe if the prospect is there of a WTO hard Brexit, our politicians will intervene, and one of two things will happen. Either the Article 50 leaving date will get extended for a year or two and the can gets kicked down the road, and within that, I begin to think the prospect of a second referendum, I'm sad to say, but it is getting greater.
Nigel, it's Jonathan Honig. Thank you for being with us. In effect, what principles do you think, assuming there is a Brexit, I know you've been a big proponent of it, what are the principles that could make the UK once again the most prosperous and powerful economy in the world? Basic principles that would make it such a powerful economy once again.
Well, I think the sovereignty point isn't just some sort of romantic notion. What it means is that we would be in control of the laws for our financial services industry, our manufacturing industry, our fishing industry. And I think it's more appropriate to make laws for your own businesses in your own country rather than have it done in Brussels by a bunch of old men that you can't vote for and you can't remove.
And there it is. It'd be the same under the UN. The United Nations, who we can't vote for, we can't put in place. We can't remove making our laws, just like this immigration pact with the UN that they tried to get us to go for. It makes a new human right of migration, and it is designed to take away our sovereignty and bring us into the fold, because in it, it states they will help any governments with any suppression of those that don't agree. Yeah, no freedom of speech. See, they can't even make their own laws, and you wonder why the people want to leave. How would you like to be dictated to from somewhere that you can't control who is doing the dictating? That's not freedom. What the globalists offer is not freedom. It's slavery.
But there's something missing. Well, they are a bunch of old men, and they are unelected. The whole thing's an outrage. But here's something else. There's a word that I used to hear back in the 80s when characters like Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher were on the world stage. That word was competitive. And by being outside the European Union, by being outside very backward laws, whether it's on the environment, whether it's on employment, we could become competitive.
And there it is, competitive. That is what hurt America. Obama stifled our businesses, small and large, with so many taxes and so many regulations that cost businesses money, they can no longer be competitive. So they moved out of our country. Now they're coming back because those regulations have been reversed. And look at the economy. Look at gas. I saw $1.96 today. Here in Illinois, who they want to raise, because of course the Democrats are eyeing that savings as taxes for them and give us the highest gas prices in the country. Thank you, Illinoisans, for not learning yet.
We could undercut Europe. We could become cheaper. We could become a place that global investors want to come in an even bigger way than they do now. You know, we are a great country. We've got the oldest functioning democracy in the world. We speak English. We've got a relationship with the USA. We've got a relationship with the Commonwealth. We can do so much better being outside a European Union, and one that is failing. Look at France, look at Italy, look at Hungary, Poland. This thing isn't even going to be here in 10 years' time. This train is headed for a crash in the buffers. I do not want to be on that train when it gets there.
Now we're going to take a look at the peaceful protest for the Brexit, what they call the Brexit betrayal, that they have not been. And this just happened in London. Let me remind you, France is on fire. It's not. It's over finally a tax that broke the camel's back. Yeah, it's also about freedom in their country and their culture. See, what they're going to do. This is where I want you to see if there's any Nazi flags in this part of the video, because the same characters are going to show up that do in America and call Britain patriots Nazis. But look for flags, please. Look, show me how they're Nazis. Is what I want to know. Why they are self-labeled Nazis by the media allows it, and you'll see how the media reports on this peaceful protest that many Brits participate. And here you're going to see Tommy Robinson, who was put in prison for reporting on Muslim gang rapes happening in his country that the government wanted to keep silent. And our media, CNN, I have a video, shows that they blame white people. Yeah, it's amazing. But here he is leading the rally. And thank you for the video, Tommy Robinson. And keep up the good work, my fellow Brit patriot. Remember to count the Nazi flags in this evil Nazi violent protest they're having. Does that look familiar? Yeah, same thing happening in our streets against flag waving, American freedom loving patriots.
Look, I just think it's really important that everyone from Labour, from the broader Labour movement, from the trade union movement, comes out and makes it clear that we will not have fascists on the streets of Britain in 2018. We've seen a terrifying rise of the right across Europe, in Hungary, in Poland, we've got Trump in America, Bolsonaro in Brazil, and Tommy Robinson wandering around London. Like, it has just got to be stopped.
Far terrifying right. Oh, Tommy Robinson's wandering around London. Man, he grew up there. He is a Brit. He is trying to save his culture. And look how the unions, once again, even in Britain, what side they're on. I told you unions are anti-freedom. They are communist at their core. They were sent out to agitate from communist Soviet Union. That's what's their core. This.
Tear down the fencing! Tear down the fencing! Tear down the fencing! Tear down the fencing!
attacking people! Oi, wait! Oi! 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 No! No! Oi! Stop it! Stop it!
This is nothing more than terrorism and chaos caused by this side to browbeat people into silence. It is communism, it is lawlessness, anarchy. This is not what we want for our world. This is the opposite of what we want. We want law and order, which equals freedom. Look how they attack the cops, the lawlessness of these people, and they think they have some moral high ground because they call the other side Nazis and slanders them?
Stop it! Stop it! Hey, stop it! Stop it! Stop! 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 Stop it! Stop! 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 Hey, stop it! Stop! Let go of him! Let go! Let go! Hey!
Have you seen a Nazi flag yet? They label them Nazis as an excuse to commit violence against them. And they are trying to protect British culture because they are British. And they're doing the same thing to us Americans. And why are we the only ones not allowed to protect our culture? It doesn't make any sense, yet they browbeat people into silence. I ask again, which side is violent and why does the media portray it wrong? Here we have the media out and out lying. Look, labor, grassroots movements. Imagine that. Same thing here in America. Community organizing. This is communism. Social justice is socialism, communism. Don't. Reminds you how they showed the Hillary crowds during the elections, doesn't it? That's guarantee you the media didn't show this part of it. Now, what's amazing about it all is there's not one Nazi flag in this crowd. Yet they're labeled Nazis by the opposition as an excuse to try to jump the barriers and commit violence against them. So then when they do defend themselves, they, like the Proud Boys and all us patriots, are then called violent by the media. Violent, 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 when it's actually the other side that caused the violence. It is absolutely amazing. Don't be fooled by the media and their lies. They lie to further the globalist agenda to try to make us all slaves. Stand with Britain. Here we're going to see a man be thrown out for asking questions about Muslims in London, England. There is no free speech in Britain, none in Europe, only in America is there free speech. Think about that.
I'm not a my name is Tan, and I'm not a resident. I'm from Malaysia, actually. And I heard Sadiq Kant talk a lot about international politics, and I think this is very relevant to safety, not just for London, but also for the whole world. So I'm not sure you heard about Ahok, who is your counterpart in Indonesia. No,
we honestly, we want questions which are
it's
related
relevant,
to
it's
the
related
safety of
to
Londoners.
terror attack and the crime rate. Yeah. So this is relevant. This is the root cause of the problem we're facing today in the whole world. Yeah. Ahok, a governor with a minority ethnicity, was thrown into jail for insulting Quran. Yeah, in a Muslim country, and you did not speak up about that. and then you instead you made a statement about
No,
terrorism
I don't-
attack
no,
is
no,
part
no,
and parcel
no,
of
no,
living
no,
in a big
I'm
city.
sorry, I'm
That's
sorry.
a big problem.
No, I'm sorry.
This is
I
the
won't-
root cause of the
I'm
crime.
not accepting this
And there was
question.
this.
That will
the
do. Would you take his microphone
Muslim were
from
raping.
him? Take his microphone from him. Take his microphone. Thank you so much. Sit down. Sit down or you will have to leave. You will have to go. Would you escort that gentleman from the hall, please? Right. A question from the block over there.
Because I've got no problem with a so-called hard Brexit, because that makes us an independent, self-governing, democratic nation that controls its own borders, makes its own trade deals. I could go on for hours, but there isn't time.
Why is that a bad thing? They don't want us to be independent nations. They want one world government ruled by those in the United Nations to dictate to the rest of the world what we have to do. And that is not what America is about. A little over 200 years ago, we fought to be free, and we've been fighting ever since. And now our media has betrayed us into the globalist agenda, and they are trying to selectively edit the news. They will not show you any of this. They will not. CNN will never have Nigel Farage on because they're scared of what he has to say and they don't want to put his message out there. Another man is Dr. Jordan Peterson. They would never have him on. Thank you and God bless. Please share.